The iconoclast remains at Antax for repairs and refit, since the damage is too great for it to travel safely through warp. Gellerfields need the hull to be intact and impermeable, else demons could insert themselves inside the ship. And the raiment is definitely not intact. The Lament Cruiser stays as well, as a gift and extra protection for the Antax Forge world while it recovers from the Orc attack. And I receive a Space Marine bodyguard, because my blood is now really important. Blood Angels value blood very much, for some reason. Not sure if I should feel pleased or under arrest, with the power-armored giant following me everywhere. Lord Ludvius, is there a need to guard my bedroom from inside? I wonder out loud. It is my duty. What if a demon warps right in here? The veteran Marine replies with a smirk, and rolls his only eye. The other eye is a bionic one, which does offer some advantages in low-visibility fighting. I sigh in defeat and jump in my bed, and begin my own duty, as the concubines will not become pregnant without arduous effort. If I am to obtain 1,000 sons for the Space Marines, I need to step up and work hard. Decima sits on a large pillow and gives me helpful advice, tempo and breathing and pacing myself. She then pats her own inflated belly and smiles sweetly at the Space Marine. A few hours later, I crash into sleep, spent and drained dry. Your body of flesh is utilitarian, crudely functional. 1,001,111,000,000. The implant mocks my weak flesh, but I am too tired to care. Soon we will reach Forge Metallica and begin a new barter process, with the new discoveries I bring. I refrain from working on STC designs for now, until I know the Marine Sergeant better. I don't want to bolt around to ruin my pretty head for heresy. Perhaps misfortune mingles with luck for the blanks, as I find another Navy Admiral at Metallica, trying to confiscate my Grand Cruiser and my Cobra destroyers. I don't doubt the Navy needs ships badly. But that's also because they use them badly. They spend them like torpedoes and just ask for more. I personally been in command of 5 fleet actions and haven't lost a single ship of our own, and instead captured quite a few. So, when I land on Forge Metallica I am rather glad for the big and menacing Marine that demands respect as the Emperor's own son, if thrice removed. With a simple link to the Fabricator's cogitator, I unload my gifts and then load up my combat missions and how I have captured the prizes in orbit. See, Lord Admiral. I fought overwhelming odds out in the Eastern Fringe, defeated a multiplanetary pirate empire and captured their big ships. Then I returned to the Empire and gave everything to the Mechonicus forges, including a dozen STC new patterns. I even defended Forge Antax from a large Orkwog, just a year ago, with the big Marine behind me as a witness. Haven't lost a single ship. I explain with a cold voice. The Fabricator General nods as well. I can attest that. Lord Pef has helped humanity with huge efforts and results. But you refuse to include the new corvettes in your battle fleet. They did work wonders for Antax. I was there. Ludvius says curtly. The Admiral looks around for support, but even his loyal retinue won't speak against a Space Marine. Then, how many of these corvettes could you produce in a decade? He asks the tech priest. The Fabricator almost smiles. I never seen a happy tech priest, but it seems I made his day. With proper minerals and organic supplies, Forge Metallica can provide the Imperial Navy with 100 ships per decade. But if they prove themselves, and the Navy orders more, we will open more dockyards. At maximum output 500 ships per decade. The Fabricator announces proudly, and plots a graph on the holoscreen with the required mineral tonnage. It's still megatons of iron and iridium and tungsten, but for a galactic-sized empire, this is nothing. The corvettes are really cheap in comparison with bigger vessels like frigates or cruisers. The Admiral tugs his beard and powers up his own implant. Well then. I need ships, and 500 ships will help immensely even if they are weaker. Make it so. Please send the request through the Administratum, Lord Admiral. It is the law as per the Olympus Treaty. But don't worry. It may take a decade for your requisition order to be approved, but the ships will be ready. The tech priest answers with a metallic grin. With a gruff nod, the Admiral leaves and I can return to my favorite pastime in the Empire. Favors. Is the Space Marine your guard, Lord Pef? The Fabricator wonders a bit worried. Some of our deals weren't quite legal, now that I think on this. Well, Lord Ludvius? Can I trade with the cogheads, or should I just shoot myself before the Tyranids arrive? I wonder out loud. The fabricator snickers like a child. I will wait outside, Lord Pef. Your blood must not be spilled yet. The Marine quips and leaves me alone with the tech priest. I never thought I could have fun with meatbags, but today everything seems amazing. Atomantic reactors, plasma cannons, and even the corvettes got ordered. Your Emperor must be watching over you, Captain, he says in a pleased voice. I cough politely. Yes, he has his son watching over me right now. And I expect to receive a whole company soon. In a few decades, I mean. The fabricator nods as if he expected this. Then he powers up the cogitator and loads the Antax recordings. Those corvettes, they are amazingly suitable for long-range operations, with nearly no consumables. And the schematics you gifted me are bound tightly into the Imperial logistics, for macro-cannon shells and torpedoes. They are also easy to operate by illiterate serfs and armsmen. And yes, the Imperium has billions of factories, they can produce shells in any numbers. I don't have such luxury. I explain without any regret. It is true, after all. Uneducated people impressed into the Navy can be trained to push shells around and unload them by the thousands. Plasma guns need a bit more finesse and care. Yes, yes. We agree on how incompetent humans are. Or at least the unwashed masses. What do you want for all these patterns, Lord Pef? He asks me directly. Anything you can spare. You know I will return again, perhaps with even nicer gifts. I quip in a small voice. Again with the want. I don't want things for my pleasure. A larger list opens up, now including rare machines and weapons that I don't even know which side is up. I admit, I don't know what these are. Rare relics, maybe? I say in a meek voice. Volkite_weapons, Arc_weapons, Hellguns, Inferno pistols and all the good stuff the Marines may use. The last thing is a teleporter, though it needs a potent psyker to operate. The fabricator explains in a teasing tone. Titans too? I ask in a hopeful voice. Tiny Titans, for a tiny captain. Knights. But we will need to test your pilots first. He explains with a wave of tentacles. Maximum limit reached, noted. No Titans. I shouldn't have asked. Not even the Marines have Titans, silly Pef. I have read about something called a Macarius tank. I wonder if it could be equipped with these reactors and guns, like baby Baneblades. But without needing ammo for weapons, or promethium for fuel. I propose in a curious voice. The fabricator freezes in deep thought. Normally I would kick you out for trying to impose on my gratitude, but it seems it could work. But I don't have Macarius STC templates. Yes, I have been told by other fabricators, forgers don't share templates. But they might share with me, for something of great value. If only I knew where to go. I propose in a level tone. He probably wanted me to ask, as he would receive the benefit for free. Forge World Lucius holds the original. But Graia also has it. And Anvilus 9 as well. I heard you have visited Graia some time ago. The fabricator says in a flat voice. I did. But their location was compromised by Hive Fleet Kraken, and they have moved elsewhere. Anvilus_9 it is. If I die out there, I will blame you. I quip in a joking voice. The tech priest just nods. It is possible, Lord Pef. But you have proven resourceful, and always survived and prospered. However, even if you die, the Grand Cruiser will be remitted to your clan. I am not trying to renege on my promise. With that, we return to bitter bartering and choosing the destroyers I need, then upgrading their sensors for deep exploration. More resupplies like torpedoes and missiles, a new fighter squadron and a squad of Vulture gunships for ground support. Whitelands tests a few knights and picks a melee variant with a power sword, and a multi-melter side gun. Sergeant Ludvius receives a power maul taller than him, and an Inferno pistol, which seems tiny in his hand. Makes a big boom though and can pierce tank armor. I get a light power armor, because the Space Marine insists on keeping my blood safe. I remember my father having something just like this and didn't help him much, except give him a false sense of security. Then again, in this galaxy it's better to have and not need. Then I pick an Artificer quality Hell pistol, the kind without a huge pack on my back. Since lasers have no recoil, it suits me better than a bolter or something more powerful. Then I also take a small power dagger, because some things might get too close. And since I lack natural weapons like claws or flexible tail, a dagger will be useful. It can also cut through power armor, so it's nice. More time passes till my squadron is ready to depart, as the 6 Cobra destroyers are brand new and their captains too. The Mechanicus provides me an auxiliary guard regiment and 1,000 more tech priests for maintenance and repairs, as well as an armor battalion should I need to debark on Anvilus in force. With this, I am now out of worthy clansman officers to promote to captain rank. I shouldn't complain though. I have quite a few ships now, even if I lack a heavy warship as a fleet corps. The Grand Cruiser is barely going through initial repairs now, and I can only hope it will be ready in 70 years. Then again, building one takes at least 500 years, not that anyone still builds them anymore. They are relics for a reason. The STC patterns were lost to war and mutiny, so it's possible Metallica will try to reverse engineer the design by comparing the 2 working models they have. Engage. I command from my captain bridge. Of course, the bridge windows are now closed and armored since staring into the immaterium isn't healthy. The warp opens and swallows my 7 ships with a hungry violet mouth. We travel through hell. Simply training and teaching officers is boring. I need to work on more STC designs, and Jiren isn't very inventive. Good head for math and science, of course. But the Mechanicus have stagnated for a reason. When they invent new things, they tend to overcomplicate and go for broke, usually with disastrous results. Many Forge worlds have been lost to genius scientists that open the jar and peek inside nasty things. What I do is rather the opposite, most of the time. Simplify the machine and make it easier to construct, repair and maintain. And so far, this has worked great, with improved results going from a few percent to 300% in a few cases. What are you doing? The big Astartes asks as I sit at my cogitator and play with a couple Hydra and Manticore STC templates. Trying to save the universe. Imagine this, my friend. There are about 5 billion armored vehicles in the Imperium. Half of them are based on the Chimera template, this ugly thing here. I begin my explanation, going from the far to the close. So it is. We have tech marines in our chapter. The veteran Astartes confirms amused. Of those Chimera variants, 1 billion sit unused in various Munitorum depots, for various reasons like strategic reserve or replacements in case of invasion. But about 10% are simply broken. For example, the tracks wear out and nobody can repair 100 million tanks, because only tech priests know how. I explain further, and zoom in on the tracks. I know, Lord Pef. Knowledge is dangerous and all that. I hear the same from our tech marines, very often. Lord Ludvius says softly. But now imagine these tracks were more resilient and very simple to repair. Just the tracks. Broken machines in the field and would be fewer. The Munitorum could repair and release the damaged tanks back to their regiments. The Imperium would gain 100 million tanks right now, and would lose millions less every year. The Forge worlds could produce them faster and free a few forges to craft more fighters or gunships. I announce proudly, and produce the simpler track design. Astartes are very smart. Lord Ludvius immediately notes the simpler design, that even himself can understand now. Is this for real? I saw you gave Metallica a lot of advanced designs with fancy names. Nothing this simple. He wonders out loud. Yes. It is a real design. My best invention so far. Taking a complicated machine and making it simpler. I say in a meek voice. If there's a bolt around coming. To my surprise, the Astartes chuckles and pats my head. So this is your big secret, huh? Making crazy complicated machines into easy ones. More durable too, I assume? I sigh in relief. Well, only by 10%. The ancients were very smart and didn't make huge mistakes in picking the right materials or such. They just did better forges and technology, so complicated mechanisms were easier to do. But now, they are relics and can't be made anymore. Only if they were simplified. I understand. If your tracks are 10% more durable, humanity will lose 10% fewer tanks during maneuvers, perhaps even during combat. Lord Ludvius comments in a friendly tone. I close the schematic and open the atomantic reactor. This is a forged Tigris-made tank reactor. They install them in fellblades. Very small and expensive to make. Enormous energy output though. Enough to support shields, in fact beside energy weapons. Cogheads are smart, everyone knows that. They make wondrous artifacts. Just like the armor I wear. Weapons too. I hold my hands up. Not the point. It's complicated, expensive and very hard to produce. A whole planet makes one such reactor per year. Now look at this. My own variant. The holoscreen splits up, to produce the larger but cheaper retribution pattern reactor. It's bigger and uglier. The Marine says dismissively. But a Forge world can make 100 of them per year. And they are cheaper and easier to repair. This other variant is even bigger, but can be installed on space fighters and bombers. Maybe even water-based navy, like submarines. I replied, turning to observe his reaction. He understands, I realize in surprise. Eyes wide and thinking deeply. And they are cheaper too? He asks to make sure. At least 10 times. No need for adamantium binders. Osmium plated with gold on the outside. Jiren speaks for the first time. Osmium can be mined from asteroids. It's difficult, but incomparably easier than forging adamantium. Especially if you want delicate stuff, not big beams of metal. In a decade, you could produce 1,000 heavy tanks, enough to push back a chaos invasion. Lord Ludvius mutters to himself. I decide to ignore his ramblings and start working. If he didn't blow up my brains by now, he won't do it. Jiren opens up the crack missile STC and starts taking apart every component, while I measure them for reliability and damage range. We mark 2 parts as improvable, one a tiny silver pin that is prone to rupture or melting prematurely. We replace that with gold-plated steel. The other is the proximity sensor, which was simply awful. This will take more work, but I have experience with other Auspex sensors. Late in the morning, we finish upgrading the sensor to the Retribution standard. Now we have to build 100 such new missiles and test them. Going to bed. I mutter and fall asleep. Luckily nobody makes fun of me now. I am only human, and these two are not. The trip to Anvilus continues in much the same pattern, but my concubines end up pregnant and Decimar gives birth to another blank, this time a girl. Well, she can become an officer without problem. Even a captain. The Empire doesn't discriminate on sex, not much. There are jobs reserved for a certain sex, like Astartes or Battle Sisters. They discriminate on everything else though. The mutant, the heretic and the xeno. Flesh, belief and race make up like 99% of the actual discrimination. Blanks and psychers are also considered mutants, which is a good reason to spend time away from the Empire. Now, there are some things out there which does make sense to discriminate against, with any and every level of firepower available. Demons, Tyranids, Dark Eldar, and many others. As it happens they would gladly kill mutants, heretics and xeno without prejudice. For biomass, for souls or for pain. They all just want to consume your essence. And the best defense against such predators? The blank gene. Offense as well, for those with dominant pariah genes, whose mere presence can banish demons or chase away tyrannid biotitans. Pariahs would make a great weapon against these enemies, and some groups out there already use them for this purpose. The Calexis Assassin Clade, the Sisters of Silence, even the Necrons or the Harlequins. Rogue psychers or traitor librarians can simply be shut off by sending a pariah in their vicinity. And without their powers, they can be killed with normal weapons. It is my hope some of my descendants will gain this dominant gene, and be able to fight back effectively. Tanks are useless against a greater demon or a hive queen. Not to mention the traitor primarchs or corrupted farseers and saints which can tear apart planets with their minds. Finally, by the time we arrive at Anvilus 9, the new crack missile is ready, in 3 different patterns. One is a small shoulder-launched weapon, useful versus power armor or light tanks. The classic version, mounted on vehicles, will damage nearly any tank, as well as gunships and fighters. The heavy missile can damage heavy tanks, bombers and small titans. It is also very expensive and slow to make, but not as hard as a titan would be. It also needs a dedicated carrier, like the Manticore tank, a missile gunship or a space fighter. As we arrive at Anvilus, we immediately discover signs of heavy fighting, damaged ship hulls and drifting hulks. All are of Mechonicus origin, which doesn't bode well. Every Auspex station, sever links and go autistic. I demand in a few seconds. If there's scrap code flying around, things might get ugly. I send out a dozen Mechonicus servitor pilots in their fighters, to collect scans and observe the Forge world with a close flyby. Meanwhile, I turn my squadron around and prepare for emergency warp to the nearest star. If there is a dark Mechonicus planet here, I don't know of anything I could do. And then we wait, tensely for more data to be collected and analyzed by the sensors and then filtered by tech priests. Even looking directly at an Auspex sensor could infect your eyes with ruin code. The stuff is evil, working on mimetic principles instead of machine logic. Imagine a viral video that you can't ever forget, slowly drilling into your mind until you go insane. And then you eat your fingers, or the nearby person. Damn 40k universe. My Astartes guard pats my shoulder. The Emperor protects. He advises me in a calm voice. I sigh inward. I wanted to protect him. By the next day, after the fighters return to the cruiser, we hold a conference to decide what to do. It seems the Forge world is dead and deserted, nothing moving or shooting back. This could be the prize of the millennium, should we find anything intact. The risks are proportional, as it seems the local Mechonicus cult has split into religious factions and battled each other to death. Gyron believes it our duty to survey and explore the remains, like any tech priest would. The quest for knowledge isn't just words, but a way of life. The Astartes is more cautious, since infected machines could still be awake deep underground, and just bait us to land, and then eat us. The clan crew is split up, because the rewards could make each of them richer than a noble. But only if they survive. In the end I chose both major options. My cruiser will depart for Forge Tigris with any minimal loot that we can grab from deep space, while a single destroyer and most of the tech priests and servitors will be sent to the planet to start the investigation. The other destroyers are sent back to my capital, Eleva, to bring our transport fleet and mining barges here to carry the loot, under escort. Compared to raw minerals from asteroids, scraped hulks made of adamantium and possibly full of rare and ancient technologies are less worthy than dirt. Mining can hold for now, since every planet in my empire has been given a small forge and its tech priests from Metallurgicus and Technicus Pleiades. They can search for planet-side minerals and be fine for a while. Also, I am almost certain that Metallica's fabricator has lied to me, since news about this internal conflict must have been known to the Mechonicus leaders. He just didn't want to risk it himself. Plus he knew I would give everything away, hopefully the template designs already cleaned up and upgraded. We collect a dozen different turrets and batteries, many so exotic that I can't really identify them. Perhaps gravity shear or warp or neutron beams. A few broken space fighters with odd design choices, even a few automata. Kept under quarantine and strict security, that hangar bay is locked and depressurized for transport. I can barely wait to receive the Grand Cruiser, which will have 20 times more internal space. Volume grows fast with each elongated dimension. Although the reactor and generators will also be bigger, the extra space will allow for 30 fighter squadrons instead of the current 3. The same with stockpiles of torpedoes and other consumables, like missiles, bolter rounds and autocannon bullets. And if I install a few forges, I can even replenish some consumables or spare parts, even construct armor and power armor for my troops. Nothing like the artificier-made power armor I wear right now, but even something 10 times simpler would increase the strength and durability of my troops at least 10 times. So, on the way to Forge Tigris I dissect more STC templates, this time aided by another tech priest from the Cogitatrice's clade, called Fabricator Minoris Iota 7099. Gyron detached him especially for me, and said the guy had a good brain and a knack for mathematics. I am almost tempted to call him Yoda, but they are nothing alike. Minoris is 3 meters tall with a dozen pairs of mechanical arms, each holding a different obscure device that are always flashing or beeping and murmuring prayers. Still, he is a good scientist despite all that. We change the Manticore template to allow an enclosed box with 10 missiles to be loaded and unloaded fast on a gimbal mount, which in turn will allow field reloads with a crane or some tall automata from Mechanicus. This also protects the missiles from any atmospheric trouble, like rain or acid gas, also arrows, bullets and other low-caliber damage. A few more upgrades to the Auspex sensors and I'm finished. Minoris keeps working to upgrade the targeting cogitators, something I will sell separately, if they work. Then I load the Hydra template and upgrade it as well, even adding a hunter-killer launcher in the design. With 2 tri-barrel multi-lasers, and the crack missile launcher, my Hydras will be 50% better. In range, firepower and rate of fire, along with better sensors and tracks. If I could, I would promote this simple tank as standard composition to every Imperial Guard regiment. 100 per regiment if not double. Then again, that would mean at least 200 million such tanks, and nobody will likely make them. Still, I try. If I don't try, the Tyranids will eat everyone. They probably will anyway. I suspect all these hive fleets are mere the advanced tendrils of a much larger Tyranid swarm. The scouts, so to say. And if their scouts are nearly unstoppable, damn it. What can I do? Try to direct some more orcs at these hives? But mushrooms, even green ones, are also biomass. The Tyranids do eat orcs just as they eat anything else. Then I do remember something. The second warp beacon directed at Ultramar. Have you ever wondered why the navigator can still chart the course, outside the Astronomicon range? I ask, turning toward my Astartes guard. Then I save the file and close the screen, since a big hand holds my head in a vice. Careful what you say, rogue trader. The Emperor sees all. He growls and his good eye turns red. I draw a deep breath, and poke his hand. After he releases me, I wave Minoris out from my lab. The Mechanicus would do something stupid once they find out the truth. I was talking about the navigator, my friend. He locks on Ultramar, which shines in the warp so strongly he can choose the right currents without error. Macragge the Ultramarines' capital, in fact. I explain in a sterner voice. Damn Astartes and their devotion. Even a veteran lost his cool, from a mere question. I don't know why. Perhaps Primarch Guilliman guides them. He answers after some thought. I shake my head. I know why, I just asked if you do. I asked because the Tyranids too are drawn to psychic beacons. And the Ultramarines are projecting a powerful beacon. Very similar to the Astronomicon, although it doesn't need to burn 1,000 psychers every day. The Blood Angel shrugs in dismissal, rage calming down now that it doesn't have a target. Seems a good thing to me, if ships can travel safer through the warp. He adds in a softer voice. I nod and smile. Indeed, it is very useful. Remember, the Tyranids also follow this beacon. But, if I would change the light to illuminate say Sharadan, the largest orc empire nearby, the Tyranids would change course, and the orcs will have to fight them. And then, 1,000 more enemies, even demon worlds. I whisper in a secretive tone. The Marine hugs me to his armored chest, almost crushing me. We will do this. Directing the bugs to eat the Emperor's enemies? This is even bigger than your blood possibly curing the curse, or struggling to unlock some old weapons. And as the Tyranids fight, they will become weaker too, and we would have some hope to defeat them. I cough and pound his pauldron to get set down. Control your emotions, Astartes. This is something that might get me killed. By the Ultramarines, then everyone else trying to control the beacon. I mutter in a grumble, and sit in my armchair. Not that gaining access and control over the Xeno artifact on Suta is even feasible right now. I'd need an Inquisitor on my side. And a large fleet to fend off Chaos or Eldar or whoever catches wind of what I'll be doing. This blasted galaxies have plenty gods, and most of them are enemies. The friendlier ones or their worshippers might still kill me simply on principle. However, if the Blood Angels rally behind me, maybe the Mechanicus too, then I have a small chance. A small chance in hell. Look what they've made of our dream. Oh. Damn it. Even my implant thinks I'm doomed. Decades have passed since I last visited Forge Tigris, so when I appear in the system I don't get a warm welcome. Ha! Warm welcome, like laser hot. There are a dozen of my cheap corvettes patrolling the system outer edge, and they show signs of repair. Melted hulls barely patched and missing the normal ornaments of the Imperial Navy. Even my cruiser has a cathedral on top, because it's the fashion. A pair of space fighters come about and escort me into dock, refusing to discuss the cold treatment. Could it be they figured it out? That I stole their atomantic reactor design? If Jiren was here he would know. Lord Ludvius, what are our chances if the Mechanicus are hostile? I ask in private. He just stares at me. For a minute. That bad, huh? We land to meet the fabricator, but are received by a fabricator_locum instead. And she's a lady, even has a human face. Lord Pef, I heard you have risen in rank, even an Astartes bodyguard. She begins with a wave of tentacles. We fought the orcs at the Battle of Antax. Now we're good friends. I explain nothing. Blood angels have a single friend, duty. The Marine chuckles amused and waves a hand back at the robot lady. Nice powers weapons, from Metallica I'd say. She continues with a glacial voice. Shit. She knows, somehow. Or something. This time I return to the Empire directly here to forge Tigris, fabricator. I have a few STC templates as a gift, and a few relics on board the cruiser. No idea what they are, but they bear the cog sign, so they are obviously Mechanicus weapons of some kind. The hangar has been sealed and quarantined. I say and hold out a physical data storage for my templates. Interfacing directly with a dubious cogitator that might be hostile would be ill-advised. See, I can learn. The Magus scans the device with a dozen instruments, before plugging into it directly. A few seconds later, she smiles a little, perhaps satisfied with my meager gift. More low-quality designs, though perhaps useful for the Astra Militarum. Clever fix for the Manticore reloading problem. She adds with a knowing look. So, the game is up, I guess. They figured out what I do, after dozens of simple templates spread out among forged worlds from a single source, the generous rogue trader with a state-of-the-art cruiser. I can never admit to it though, not to some unknown tech priest. They will never find my body, and probably my Astartes friends as well. Well then. Should I go, or do you want those other gifts? I ask in a meeker voice. The fabricator stares at me for a long minute, although she's most likely relaying my offer to other people. She will join the inventory team in an hour. Until then, you drink tea? The Magus asks politely and starts a complicated tea ritual with too many tentacles. The tea is nice though. I doubt the cult would bother to poison me, not when I'm at their mercy anyway. Even Ludvius drinks some tea, and holds his thumb up to assure me it's not radioactive or such. This woman happens to be an inquisitor? I wonder out loud, after straining my implant for a few minutes. I might be lucky, but I just wished for an inquisitor of my own. The Magus lady glances at the implant ports visible on my skull. So you have brains after all. Don't worry, she wasn't hunting you. But as you're here and have a ship available. The Astartes pats my head like someone would a cat. Lord Pef is rather important for my chapter. I will decide where and when he goes. Now, this is something strange. Even blood angels wouldn't, of course they would. They just need a big enough reason, like I have just provided with my beacon plan. The metal door opens to reveal a fabulous black-haired woman in Inquisitor garb, followed by two other Astartes, in black armor. Death Watch Marines. Damn it. Please, Sergeant Ludvius. Tell me more about this important rogue trader. Is it the blank genes, that might cure your curse? I have another blank in my retinue. She proclaims in a proud tone, holding her Rosetta out for a millisecond. I feel something mighty trying to reach my mind, then it fades. Damn it. The blank protection is not perfect then. It's kinda worrisome, since a Rosetta is sanctified on Terra. A young platinum-haired woman with piercing green eyes steps out from behind the Space Marines. And I know her. I've seen her pics. And she knows me too. Pef Lancefire. I heard your father died, out in the fringe. She says in a slightly warm voice. Meltaguns are harsh on the skin. Such are the dangers beyond the borders. I answer more kindly. I never expected to meet my mother this way. See? Nothing to worry about, Sergeant. We're all a big happy family here. The Inquisitor quips and grins warmly. Is she the true Inquisitor? A Rosetta can be held by a trainee as well. Then again, does it matter? Only another Inquisitor can investigate her. My Astartes sighs and stands straighter. Your command, Lord Pef? He asks me in a resigned voice. Hell, we're about to die? Not on my watch. I still have a mission. Fabricator, let's go and finish our negotiation protocols on the litany. The Lady Inquisitor may join us, and we'll talk in private. I say in a flat tone, like I was surrounded by a meter of adamantium. The blank wouldn't help much, but they can't read my thoughts or future anyway. It will make them a bit wary. Amazingly, my gambit works, as the Inquisitor raises an eyebrow with curiosity, and gestures silently at her enforcers. Soon enough, we arrive on the litany and I open the sealed hangar for the Tigress Tech priests, and the Inquisitor. Then I wait on the launch rails, while 100 magi dart from artifact to artifact spewing prayers and blessing, gushing holy oil everywhere, as well as incense smoke and datasphere engrams. I think they like my gifts. I announce a bit amused. These things might be really valuable. Aren't the cogheads always the same, around machines and weapons? The Space Marine asks rhetorically. Well, they do like machines, but we never seen them like this, not this agitated, not even for new spaceship templates or tank reactors. Wait, it's a joke. Who knew you still had a sense of humor, Astartes? I thought they removed it surgically during implantation. I mutter in a small voice. They tried, but my will was stronger. He quips and pats my head again. Damn it, I'm not a child to be praised with head pats, even if I look much smaller in comparison. The Lady Inquisitor records everything and performs scans on every item, sometime conferring with a small guy with weasel eyes, from her retinue. By next day, a Mechanicus cruiser comes about and begins loading the relics at speed. The Fabricator points at her forge world with a cyborg arm, then nods and departs without a word. Well, I don't need words anyway. This is a capital letter favor. I still won't get Titans, so I'll have to pick everything else. Don't worry, Lord Pef. Forge Tigress won't forget this debt. But if they do, I have records. They will pay you, somehow. The Inquisitor remarks in a softer voice, and sits down to sip her own tea. It seems I need to supply my ship with higher quality stuff, because she just snorts at everything I have as food or drinks. Lidvius and everyone else wait outside, as it is time for the fated talk. I gulp some wine to fortify my courage. You intend to travel outside the Empire, Inquisitor? I ask after a minute of polite silence. She nods gracefully. Ordo Xenos then, if her Death Watch guards didn't clue me enough. I freeze a second, loading the sector map and considering probable destinations. The Eldar? I ask curious. Always fun to watch a savant at work. Perhaps we should implant all the Imperium officers. We might lose fewer people and ships that way, going by your exploits alone. The woman replies in slight praise. I nod in agreement. The implants aren't without problems, but they outweigh that with sheer utility. We do not hate the alien because he is different, we hate the alien because he had naught but hate in his heart for us. 1,111,100,011,110. This quote makes me smile a little. They would be useful to reduce Hive Fleet Kraken a bit. Orcs and Necrons would work better. Maybe the Bargassy too, I muse out loud. Oh? And how would you direct the Tyranids from course, to strike at Mandragora, for example? She asks dismissively. Glad you asked, dear lady. Mandragora is the capital of a large Necron dynasty, with prodigious levels of firepower. I would take an Inquisitor with me, and visit Sutha. Then I would shift the warp beacon from Ultramar on Mandragora. Perhaps Chandran or Grendel after that. Lead them on a merry chase around the sector, and vanquish the nastiest enemies with no losses for humanity. I comment with a shrug. She did ask, after all. Grendel is the center of a huge Bargassy empire called Grendel_stars. Her hand trembles a little, spilling the tea. No wonder that Blood Angel was ready to die for you, really important, it would seem. She murmurs to herself, wiping away the tea with a telekinetic wave. But then, where would I find an Odo-Zeno Inquisitor that might listen to me? Alas, I'm out of luck. I complain and sip some wine in victory. She grins at me with eyes only. You weren't spanked enough as a child, Pef Lancefire. My mother left me. Then my father died. I had to improvise. I quip in return. She nods solemnly. We will need a big fleet. I don't have a fleet, but I know who does. I will leave you to catch up with Justine. Well, you'll see for yourself. The Inquisitor says and walks out. A minute later my mother enters along with my Astartes. In a second, her eyes dart around the room and then lock to my elbows. I was trained in melee combat too, so I know a dangerous person when I see her. She's an assassin, Lord Pef. He explains and hovers a hand over his Inferno pistol. He saw it as well, no doubt about it. Hello mother. I say softly and offer her a hug. Justine approaches me hesitantly and stops a step away. You've grown up. And quite a successful man, from what I hear. She comments in a colder voice. So, that's her real self. Always on guard. Not that I blame her. Makes sense to be always cautious, when you live in hell. Mostly harmless, for nearly every power in the galaxy. But I suppose I live better than a laborer in a hive. I allow with humility. She flinches and scowls in a painful memory. Damn it. I nailed her weak spot, with perfect accuracy. Your Astartes will take care of you, so I feel less worried now. And even the Mechonicus has a soft spot, in their metal hearts. Your aura is weak, but made your life easier. Justine says with a glance at Ludvius. Want some wine or tea? I want to hear about your life and father. I offer and start pouring wine. The mission to Antax is sealed. But, I met your father and traveled on the Litany. Then I got off for another sealed mission. If you feel abandoned. She explains and drinks the Inquisitor's tea, possibly by smell memory. I point at her cup. Need to watch for those habits. One day there will be something else in that tea. Justine blinks and stares at her cup, her face going from confusion to fear and then acceptance. I should be the one teaching you to survive. And I will, if she lets me. The art of war is a matter of life and death. I quote from memory. The Astartes tilts his head curious. Probably not in the Codex. But Justine only nods with regret. So Jaron did teach you, like he promised. And now you have a son of the Emperor to teach you even more. Lord Pef is smarter than me, Lady Justine. I feel that I am the one learning from him instead. Ludvius replies instead, pistol back in the holster. No immediate threat then. I shrug and sip more wine. Anyway, we'll be flying together for some time. Decades at least. We should go to the nursery and see my kids. I conclude with a smile. No point in forcing anything, not for a long time. She will come around in time. Grandchildren, time does fly. Mother murmurs softly as I lead the way to the nursery. Two of the kids are blanks as well, and don't recoil from Justine, merely watching her curious. A dozen normal kids start crying in fear. Henna and Decimar recognize Justine from my old pics. Lady Lancefire. Decimar says politely, while gesturing to the nearby Void Marines to quiet down the kids. The women nod at Justine then begin hugging and kissing the scared kids, to calm their fears. A whole harem, and even two weak auras. They ignore my curse. Justine comments, seeming impressed. Come, mother. It is your best gift after all. This big guy is the one with the curse. I explain pointing at my Astartes friend with a smile. Blood angel. Very easy to drive into frenzy. She muses with a knowing look. She probably has a mental database on how to kill anything. The soldier works out his victory in relation with his foe. I quote again, and accept another head pat from the veteran Marine. We leave the nursery before my kids are crying again. It would be hard living with a pariah gene. A few minutes later, we meet with the Inquisitor again, this time on the bridge. The weasel guy is riffling through the ship logs, while my crew is almost paralyzed with fear. Make yourself comfortable everyone. We're working together now, the throne's agent, his sons and his voice. Just ignore any words they speak from now on. I'm your captain. I demand in a loud voice and hug the Inquisitor with one hand. She slaps my hand away and sits in the captain chair like she owns the place. Very cute. You're lucky I know your mother, Captain. The Inquisitor says with a tiny laugh. The officers look at me confused and I point at Justine. Justine. Mother. Happy family. I explain and turn away, heading back to my lab. I have tons of work to do, and playing status games with an Inquisitor isn't high on my list. Minoris is waiting for me with news. Cracked the Logi engine, Lord Peth. Want to peek inside and work your magic? He asks reverently. Damn idiot savant. It's not called magic. It's common sense, for Emperor's sake. But I suppose I can take a peek. As I expected, the cogitator coding is rather buggy and cluttered by thousands of years of cants, prayers and patchwork repair. I leave the prayers alone, because demons. But everything else should be organized into logic trees and priority targeting decisions. I lose myself into work, with Minoris adding helpful advice every minute. Even powering up my 7th implant, cogitator code is absurdly complicated. No wonder big machines like Titans or Land Raiders can still fight even without crew. If a mere missile launcher is this complex, I shudder at what a Titan code would be. Still, I sneakily insert a control code that needs a working warrant to unlock. Since I plan to mass-produce these missiles in my empire, I need to make sure they won't be fired at me. Something that can pierce the side of a Baneblade would ruin my power armor, and my life. Captain. The Inquisitor is using the astropaths. I receive on my Vox speed. Don't worry, Wenchen. I let her sit in my chair, didn't I? Anyway, get some tech priests to build her another chair beside mine. And some plasteel blocks for the Astartes. A few rooms and beds too, I guess. I order with a tired mind. Make yourself comfortable everyone. We're working together now, the throne's agent, his sons and his voice. Just ignore any words they speak from now on. I'm your captain. I demand in a loud voice and hug the Inquisitor with one hand. She slaps my hand away and sits in the captain chair like she owns the place. Very cute. You're lucky I know your mother, Captain. The Inquisitor says with a tiny laugh. The officers look at me confused and I point at Justine. Justine. Mother. Happy family. I explain and turn away, heading back to my lab. I have tons of work to do, and playing status games with an Inquisitor isn't high on my list. Minoris is waiting for me with news. Cracked the Logi engine, Lord Peth. Want to peek inside and work your magic? He asks reverently. Damn idiot savant. It's not called magic. It's common sense, for Emperor's sake. But I suppose I can take a peek. As I expected, the cogitator coding is rather buggy and cluttered by thousands of years of cants, prayers and patchwork repair. I leave the prayers alone, because demons. But everything else should be organized into logic trees and priority targeting decisions. I lose myself into work, with Minoris adding helpful advice every minute. Even powering up my 7th implant, cogitator code is absurdly complicated. No wonder big machines like Titans or Land Raiders can still fight even without crew. If a mere missile launcher is this complex, I shudder at what a Titan code would be. Still, I sneakily insert a control code that needs a working warrant to unlock. Since I plan to mass-produce these missiles in my empire, I need to make sure they won't be fired at me. Something that can pierce the side of a Baneblade would ruin my power armor, and my life. Captain. The Inquisitor is using the astropaths. I receive on my Vox speed. Don't worry, Wenchen. I let her sit in my chair, didn't I? Anyway, get some tech priests to build her another chair beside mine. And some plasteel blocks for the Astartes. A few rooms and beds too, I guess. I order with a tired mind.